And for yeah,
No,
but it's auto fixing itself. When you touch it.
restart that.
Recording in progress.
How was everyone's 4th of July?
Say that again.
How was your 4th of July?
It was uneventful, so therefore it was good.
Good. Everybody gets a rest.
Recording in progress.
Very well.
We're back. No problem, it's Ben is cut off.
Let's see if I can fix it.
Yeah, other way.
Okay.
Actually, you can zoom in a little bit because Mary's in two places now. Zoom slow, is your best bet.
Yeah. Hold on. Yes, Zoom slow may be my best bet if it zoomed right. Zoom fast? Nope, that one didn't work either. What did you get?
Zoom slow, I think it's just your angles. A little off. So.
I've been off.
Oh, look at that, it's just 7 o'clock on the nose. Ellie, you're gonna lead us, okay? Pledge?
Sure.
Here we go. Please stand for pledge of allegiance. Led by Ellie Dillon.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And welcome to our first regular meeting of July 2024 for the Village of Ballston Board of Trustees. Let us start real quickly with the minutes approval. I get a motion that the minutes of the June 24th, 2024 meeting be approved. Trustee Fondanza.
I'll second.
Trustee Price Bush, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a public hearing tonight for the parking code, and let me read the notice that was published. Village of Ballston Spa, notice of public hearing to consider adoption of local law. Notice is hereby given pursuant to section 20 of the municipal home rule law of the state of New York that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ballston Spa on Monday, July 8, 2024 at 7:01 p.m. at the Ballston Spa Public Library located at 21 Milton Avenue, Ballston Spa, New York, for the purpose of considering the adoption of local law number 3 of 2024. If adopted, local law number 3 of 2024 would add chapter 192, vehicle and traffic, to the code of the Village of Ballston Spa. Public are permitted to attend and provide comments at the above location. Written comments on local law number 3 of 2024 can be submitted to the village clerk up and through the time of the public hearing. A copy of proposed local law number 3 of 2024 can be obtained at the village offices and on the village's website. So at this point, anybody that would care to speak on the parking code, you have 2 options. Being here, raise your hand. If you're on Zoom, raise your hand on Zoom. Now's a good time to do that if you're on Zoom so that we see you as we cycle through, folks. I see 2 fingers up. I guess it's a hand for Liz Cormos to speak for 5 minutes. Go ahead.
let's see. Liz Cormos, 89 Hyde. I'm happy to see that the village is putting a parking code in. I believe that we weren't able to collect, funds for people violating the parking laws previously, and now the village will be able to enforce those laws and collect the fines. I had just one little suggestion. I often come down East High to West High and then cut down Lau Street. And the one thing I noticed is that with the angled parking there, it's very tight. And if there's a pickup truck parked in one of those parking spaces, and if there were two, there's almost no room to get around. So you might consider changing the parking on Lau Street to compact cars only, so that trucks, don't park there and block the travel lanes. So that's just one suggestion. Of course, delivery trucks, of course, would be allowed to come for a short period of time. But it's just something I noticed. Otherwise, it looked pretty good to me, and congratulations in getting one passed.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Right, go ahead. Again, if you're on Zoom and would like to give comments on this, now is the perfect time, because I think we're running out of comments in the house on this. So speak now or on Zoom. In the meantime, Ray Otten, go ahead.
Ray Otten, 16 Middlebrook Ave. I read through the code, and the one thing I don't remember seeing in there is anything prohibiting parking in a place where a sidewalk would be normal. There are a number of places in the village where a sidewalk ends, and then there's some property, and then a sidewalk begins, and people tend to abuse that position. And it can be dangerous because you either have to go out on the road to go around, or it's a safety issue. I didn't see anything in there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that should be added in. Just so there's something in there that says if the continuation of a sidewalk would be there, you can't park there.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing nobody in the room, seeing nobody on Zoom, going once, going twice, and no hands. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing at 7:05 p.m.? Trustee Fandesa. Trustee Price Bush, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. No presentations tonight, and now we're going to roll into public comment on agenda items only, 3 minutes per speaker. This is slightly different, obviously, from the public hearing, which is concentrated only on the proposed local law. And so at this point, is there any public comment on agenda items in the House or on Zoom? Again, this is your opportunity to raise your hand. I see your hand, Liz, don't worry, Zoom. So go ahead, you can start coming up. As I remind folks, raise your hand now on Zoom if you'd like to speak.
My comments.
Just for the record, one more time, sorry.
Liz Cormos, 89 Hyde. I have two questions, comments about the abstract, and I believe that would count as being on the agenda. So one is that there were, I looked through the abstract, and there's 13 cases where there's reimbursement for property tax. And I wanted to know, was that because they had their property reassessed, or was there a mistake, or what caused?
It was a senior scenario where they were supposed to get a certain break that didn't show through from the file from, I believe Milton was exclusively. And so we had to process it with Edmund's help to get that rectified ultimately, because they had deserved that. We are also, just as an FYI, not spending too time here, but as an FYI, the county has just recently raised the threshold on that, and the town of Milton has as well. We are going to have to adjust our law, because this is one of those weird scenarios where baked into the law is the actual income thresholds for those tax breaks. And we can't take it out. We can't put it into a side schedule. So we'll literally have to pass the same numbers that the county and the town of Milton have passed to duplicate that tax savings that they're entitled to, as long as the board agrees to it ultimately. So we'll be working on that over the next couple of months.
Okay, that wasn't part of my time, I hope.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I'm glad you brought it up for that reason, because we haven't got to address that.
Yeah, the second thing was the expenditures for Kelly Park. The 27,174 for the fence, and then there was another 10,996 for planning and paving. I don't remember you guys, the board, passing anything related to spending that level of money. And if you look at the procurement policy, you know, if it's over 20,000, it requires, I believe, written quotes and all of that. So I was, you know, that I don't believe happened. And also, you know, the total about 37,000 is way over the budgeted amount for playgrounds and recreation. So I don't know what the rule is as far as if you're going to exceed the budget, whether that also has to go for a vote. But at the very least, this kind of expenditure should have been brought before the board, or should be brought before the board before it's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? And anybody in Zoom? I see neither, and so let us proceed. With respect to the consent agenda, is there any item that is requested to be removed for separate consideration? Hearing nothing, then I will say, can I get a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda? Trustee Fandesa.
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that Michelle Pickering be appointed as a lifeguard? Trustee Fandesa. Trustee Baskin, I think was the second. Sorry about that, Ben. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that the mayor be authorized to execute the attached Fund One Entertainment Services LLC contract for Family Fun Day, $7,250. Trustee Fandesa.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, one thing I suggest, just remembering from last year, is there is a bounce house right by where the like the Committee on the Arts and other little tables were, and it was very loud, and I was thinking that you could do without that one just right next to it. Just the whole feedback.
Arts committee can deal with it, or we can figure out some other location for their site.
Well, I think you're looking to reconfigure anyway,
Yeah.
compared to last year where we had kind of an imbalance of traffic going on. So I think certain things are going to change anyway. So we'll see how our astute task force handles that whole lineup as you get there. Can I get a motion that the mayor be authorized to execute the attached refrigerators contract for Family Fun Day, $2,650. Trustee Fandesa. Trustee Bush, discussion.
I'd just like to encourage all residents of Ballston Spa to attend this. Since this $10,000 for one-day event, it's actually your money. Please make the most of it.
Great, you'll be there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion approving the attached proposal by Labella for work related to removing the 78 Thompson Street building from a FEMA flood zone and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement for $4,000?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fandesa. Trustee Bush, discussion.
Can you just explain a little bit where this came from?
Sure. In that general area, properties are almost entirely in a flood zone, according to FEMA's mapping. Apparently this wasn't caught, and I've got to discuss this with USDA, that this wasn't caught in the seeker process. And I'll discuss that with Alex, your colleague, because I'm not sure why we didn't catch that, but it can create some issues with the loan process or the insurance moving forward. However, other individual properties adjacent to and across the street from that property have had their buildings removed from the flood zone. Labella believes that they have about a 90% probability of successfully getting this building removed from the flood zone. And that would help in a lot of ways with respect to insurance and the loan, et cetera. So that's why I did ask them, I said, okay, I'm going to present this to the board. What is the likelihood of success? Because I've done the base research while I was in Chicago. I actually just looking at the maps, looking at the history, because all the requests to remove properties are in the FEMA website. And I saw the ones that got removed, and they said 90% is the likelihood they feel.
Great, thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Let me do this one first. Can I get a motion scheduling a public hearing related to proposed local law number 4, grades code during the Village of Ballston Spa Board of Trustees regular meeting on July 22nd, 2024 at 7:01 p.m. Trustee Fandesa. Trustee Price Bush, discussion. And again, we'll make sure that we have a final version sooner rather than later on that so that it's ready to go for that.
Right, because we did provide some comments.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've been incorporated.
We'll make sure, we'll circle back with Carla on that. She's been away, so I'll make sure that we have a final by early next week on that.
And do we feel like we have consensus on those, or is that going to be difficult?
Yeah, I only have really one comment where
Yeah.
I felt like we might be stepping on First Amendment right to but.
I think this is a good opportunity next couple of days if we get a chance, just review it one more time. If there's
Yeah,
anything you want to see, then we'll go through a consensus build and get a final version out hopefully by next Tuesday so we can review it.
All right, yeah, the one thing I remember is there's a piece in there about requiring people to be 15 feet from doorways and driveways, and that would be very difficult to have anything downtown and not have someone in the middle of the street.
So send that email back around, just so I think what happened was with the parking code, I think we were kind of getting a bifurcated focus there, and now hopefully after tonight, we'll be able to just focus on that one.
All right, sounds good.
With respect to the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolutions related to proposed local law number 3, parking code approval. I will hand this over to Carla's colleague, Alex, who actually lives on High Boulevard, so she's a local, and Carla said, hey, it's finally your turn to come and be the attorney for the village on this one. So if you want to turn your microphone on and get it a little closer to you so you can hear it.
All right.
Alex, take it away.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
I'm going to start out with a resolution designating the Village of Ballston Spa as lead agency with respect to local law number 3 of 2024. This resolution designates the Board of Trustees to act as lead agency for the unlisted action under SECRA, and it is further resolved that the mayor may be authorized to sign any and all documents associated with the environmental review regarding the adoption of local law number 3 of 2024 for the Village of Ballston Spa, New York, pursuant to Part 617 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act. So I can have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Baskin, Trustee Fandesa, discussion. This is our lead agency, and so let us get a roll call on this, please, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Baskin?
Yes.
Trustee Fandesa? Yes. Trustee Price Bush? Yes. Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Mayor Rossi?
Yes, that's 5-0, and it is the resolution carries.
Next, this is a local law, so part 1, we just need to draft with the part 2, which I'm going to walk you through. This is the short environmental assessment form that everybody should have been given, but I do have copies if people would like them. Anybody want a copy? So, does anybody have any issues with the proposed part 2? Otherwise, I can read through the questions very quickly. Okay. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? Either no or small impact, moderate or large?
Well, let me ask, does the board want to go through each individual issue?
No.
Or do we assume that there are no or small impact may occur for all 11 points on that? Everybody so okay with that?
Okay.
You're off the hook on that.
Okay, so then part 3 discusses, I will just read the quick explanation. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Ballston Spa has taken a hard look at the environmental impacts which may occur as a result of the adoption of local law 3 of 2024, and has determined that the adoption will result in no significant environmental impact. The action will further have no adverse impact on the public health of facilities. Further, the adoption of the law is a reasonable exercise of government authority. Purpose of this law is to add chapter 192, vehicle and traffic, to the code of the Village of Ballston Spa. Is everybody okay with this proposed part 3?
Yes.
Okay, and so because of that, I'm going to ask for there to be, if the board finds that the project will have any significant environmental impact.
So basically, you're looking for a negative declaration from the board, is that
Yep,
where
that
we're
was my
going at?
next step. Yep, so have a negative declaration from the board.
I get a motion finding a negative declaration with respect to proposed local law number 3 of 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fandesa, trustee Raymond, discussion. Roll call.
Trustee Baskin?
Yes.
Trustee Fandesa?
Yes.
Trustee Price Bush?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Mayor Rossi?
Yes, that's 5-0 again, and that resolution or motion with respect to negative declaration is approved.
Now later.
Okay,
Right.
so now it's time for the actual passage.
Yes. Are there any changes, minor or substantive?
I have a discussion point when we're ready for it.
Okay, first, let me get this resolution actually into the record. This is a resolution adopting local law number 3 of 2024, adding new chapter 192 vehicles and traffic to the code of the Village of Ballston Spa. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ballston Spa Board is considering the adoption of local law number 3 of 2024, which if adopted adds new chapter 192 vehicles and traffic to the code of the Village of Ballston Spa. And whereas the board finds that the adoption of local law number 3 of 2024 is in the best interest of the village and it is necessary to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of village residents and property owners, and creates a process by which vehicle and traffic controls can be established. And whereas the board finds that the adoption of local law number 3 of 2024 is a necessary and proper exercise of authority by the board. And whereas the authority for the enactment of this local law is found in section 10(1) of the municipal home rule law, and whereas pursuant to section 20 of the municipal home rule law, a public hearing on the proposed adoption of local law number 3 of 2024 was properly noticed in the newspaper and posted and was duly conducted on July 8, 2024 at the Ballston Spa Public Library. And whereas the board has considered the public comments provided before and those made at the public hearing, and whereas the board, serving as lead agency for this unlisted action under SECRA, reviewed a short environmental assessment form and determined that the action does not present any adverse environmental impacts. And whereas, after thorough review and deliberation, the board proposes to adopt local law number 3 of 2024. And whereas the attorney for the village has prepared the necessary documents for filing this local law with the Secretary of State. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board hereby adopts local law number 3 of 2024, which adds a chapter as stated above, and be it further resolved that the board adopts and authorizes the filing of a negative declaration under State Environmental Quality Review Act, and be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the village clerk and the attorney for the village to make such minor modifications to the local law documents as they deem necessary, and therefore are directed to execute and file the said documents as required by law, and to take all the necessary action for the promulgation thereof.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fandesa. Trustee Price Bush. Trustee Price Bush, discussion. I'm tongue-tied. Sorry. Ben, you had some.
So thanks for making that one correction I pointed out last time. I continue to be concerned about the penalties for offenses section. I don't understand every piece of it, the rationale. So for example, it says exceptions, except for violations of Article 2 above, which is the handicap parking violation. Every person convicted of an offense against any provision of this chapter, which is not an offense against any provision of the vehicle and traffic law of the state of New York, shall be deemed guilty of a traffic infraction, etc. So I don't understand why we're excluding the handicap section.
sign.
So he's asking, because those sections are, we're saying they're not, I think this is covered by the law, like other laws.
ADA.
ADA.
And probably more stricter, I guess, than what this code would envision.
So excluding because it's covered somewhere else.
Yes.
And that is probably why we're also saying any provision which is not an offense against any provision of vehicle traffic laws in here, because that's covered somewhere else.
Through areas with this code is act.
No, but the state
laws.
the state law, the
that-
second
Yeah,
part,
we can't
yeah,
supersede state.
right, yeah. And, all right, so
So
that,
your concerns still lay with the jail?
yeah, it seems excessive for any violation, you know, someone has a parking ticket. I would just up the dollar amount. We'd actually throw people in jail, it'll cost us more money than we'll actually collect. But more importantly, it's going to disrupt their lives terribly, and I just think it's excessive for the infraction. I'd rather just make it a fine-based penalty rather than any jail time.
I think what this gives an option for, Ben, I saw this yesterday and something else unrelated, and it kind of drove my recollection about some thoughts of this. This allows a judge to also provide a suspended sentence so that if somebody's a chronic abuser or a strong abuser of a very, very touchy part of the code, they can hand down a suspended sentence and basically state, do not violate it again, because if you do, at that point, then you would have basically the jail sentence reinstituted at that point in time. It gives them a little bit of the ability to prevent the worst of offenses from going on that are traffic-based, unfortunately, but that will have magnitude, like I had said, I think in the last meeting, blocking the driveway to prevent a police officer from exiting or entering a driveway, for instance. So things that fall under traffic, but you know, obviously have a little bit more gravity to them than your normal, or you're parked in the wrong spot type of situation.
I mean, I was thinking of that example, I was thinking there must be like 10 other laws that apply to when you're blocking a police officer from conducting their business that, you know, wouldn't necessarily be the necessary to have it in a traffic law, because you'll have all these other laws that would be violated.
Something to plead down to.
Yes.
So I think in the instances of like, you know, in the different cities around the country that we're dealing with various violent sort of events, whether they be protests or what, it would give an opportunity for a judge to, or justice system, whoever's dealing with it, I mean, that's our attorney, to say, hey, we won't, you know, if somebody ends up cooperating or, you know, I don't know, I'm not an attorney, guys.
It's a plead down.
You plead down,
position.
so it gives them an opportunity to, you know, to work with them, you know, to get people, you know, back in the right and following our laws and.
I think mostly just provide teeth so folks pay.
Yeah.
fines.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. Okay. So heard, and we heard you last time too, we didn't get a groundswell of support to take it out, and so that's why it still remains in there, to be honest with you, Ben. Again, we appreciate, I think, the, you know, cognizance of what it could implicate, and I think it's one of those things too, we see it actually being utilized. We go back at that point and reconsider, you know, why it's there and take it out at that point in time. You know, for instance, something Ray had said about the sidewalk situation, parking on sidewalk, we're gonna have to take a deeper dive about seeing if using the existing framework of this can be applied to that. If it can't, it might be something we go back in and fix later on one more time. We just need to get guts of a code right now in the code book to be able to get a PEO and start making sure that our roads are safer, because we have some parking messes going on right now throughout the village. And we also have to create a schedule now, which will take some time, and get the state to adopt it through their process over the next 30 days or so once it's approved. So I'm going to vote yes because of the idea of just getting this moving forward, and then we'll fine tune it as we need to, but we have nothing to fine tune currently in our code book, which is disturbing to say the least.
And I think Carla indicated somehow that this is in alignment with state law. Is that accurate? Do we know that?
Generally, yes.
That the state law has the same penalties?
The penalties, yes, I went through and fine tuned some of the distances based on realities of what we've set up in our stripings. For instance, fire hydrants, I think was originally written as 15 feet. That's a little over the
Yeah, no,
top
I mean,
for
just for
us.
the penalties.
Penalties,
Are
I think
they-
we actually dulled down a little bit compared to what she had taken originally. So we took the dollars down definitely a little bit to be a little bit more, I think, village-esque than city-esque in that approach. But
not the 15 days for one
We may have
offense,
knocked that
45
down.
for two, and 90 for.
I think we may knock that
Three.
down.
I would also emphasize that it's or, it's not and, so it's also would be up to the discretion of the justice system and the judge based on the
Yeah.
circumstances, and so, and that's really important is that it doesn't have to be conjunctive, so.
Right.
Yeah. So, and most times, I mean, I would imagine that they wouldn't.
I think that was the conversation we had last time, that the justice had flexibility on a case by case basis.
Under, or after that discussion, any further discussion, or are we ready for a vote at this point?
Can I just,
Oh, yeah, go right ahead.
it's not really to debate anything, but I think this is a well-needed code in our law here, and we are a growing village and we're a popular village. People like to come downtown, and parking is a challenge for everybody. And I think this is good for our residents, it's good for our small businesses in the community. So really glad we could come together and agree on this. So thanks, everyone.
You said something about demonstrations relating to this? Well, you said
Oh, I was just
before,
thinking, I kind of asked Frank, like, it's just, I imagine sometimes, like, if there were, you brought up, if somebody was obstructing a police officer using a vehicle to park, this, you would also add on, not only you were obstructing a police officer, but you also violating the parking law. It's just, it's often used, by law enforcement and.
Multiple offenses. Up the
Yeah,
same
and-
act. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to a roll call.
Trustee Baskin,
I guess I'll vote for it.
That's a yes.
Yes.
Trustee Van Denza,
Yes.
Trustee Price Bush,
Yes.
Trustee Raymond,
Yes.
and Mayor Rossi.
Yes, that's 5-0, and local law number 3 of 2024 is approved. Thank you, guys. Go to mayor's announcements. First off, we've been working on trying to get a date and how we're going to pull it off. And I think we are finally ready to announce this, that on July 20th, which is a Saturday at 11 a.m. for a ceremony, which shouldn't exceed a half an hour, but from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for an open house, we're going to basically have a grand opening ceremony for the police department building at 78 Thompson Street. We're going to have a ribbon cutting thanks to the SBPA, and thank you to them for rallying behind the police department like that, because they know the value of it to the local businesses as well. So we're reaching out to Senator Tedisco and to Assemblywoman Walsh to see if they can join us as well. And we're going to make sure we kind of do it up well and show everybody what you paid for essentially with your taxes at 78 Thompson Street. And they've done a good job of getting that building redone for the purpose of the police department.
Could you say date and time? again?
Sure, it's July 20th, Saturday, at 11 a.m. for the ceremony till 2 p.m. That will be the end of the open house period. I would like to ask, if I may, we may not need to utilize it because of the apron area, but what if we have a large crowd, can I get a motion to shut down Thompson Street between the village parking lot and Ford Street from 11 a.m. to noon on Saturday, July 20th, in case of overflow?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Van Denza. Trustee Raymond, discussion. We will allow 90 seconds for any public comment with respect to this or on Zoom. Again, this is going to be just out of concern if we have an overflow crowd, that we have the ability to make that closure occur with, and notice it accordingly so people are aware of it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that. Pickleball has been striped. I believe basketball is well on its way to being ready to go, and we are getting ready for a grand opening for that as well. Looking forward to getting a date on that. We're getting our rules together for the pickleball courts, and we have started up a scheduling system for the pickleball courts, which is not mandatory to use them, but you will get priority if you do schedule ahead of time with respect to them. And it's a very simple online system to navigate. So when we get closer to that, we will publicize that a little bit more, but we'll have 3 pickleball courts, and I foresee a little bit of excitement behind that, knowing what Milton has been experiencing with theirs as well and other locations as well. So basketball court is going to be a little bit more freestyle about how we allow play on there, but we'll have some rules related to that as well. But I think it's going to be a great upgrade to that asphalt area that kind of was just sitting there dead for a number of years to have it livened up a little bit there. In September, we will not be able to use this room at a certain point any further until the spring, most likely, because the library will start their projects for phase 1A, and I think it's just 1A or 1A, 1B, I always forget how this works. But they're going to be doing the extension of this room and a little bit of an addition onto the building. So that will take out our ability to utilize this room. Talked to Chief Bush today, and he is all for the idea. I got to talk to the fire chief and fire captains about this as well. They're doing a rotation of meeting space basically between Union Firehouse, Eagle Mat Lee, the police department garage area, which has a heated floor, I believe, and even in Village Hall, because when you have a crowd this size, we could probably accomplish it in Village Hall as well. So depending on what's on the agenda or what we foresee, we will kind of figure out where to go with it. If we distribute a rotation, then we probably end up like 4 or 5 meetings maximum over the 15 or 16 meetings that probably get involved with this relocation. So stay tuned for that. We will go and head toward that announcement when we're ready to make it, when we know when our last meeting is and how we'll start scheduling the rotation as well. So we're ready for that as well. Finally, some disappointing news. TAP CMAQ grant announcements went out. Congratulations to Saratoga County, who did get a grant with respect to North Line Road and Route 50 for a roundabout. They got a few $1 million, I think, on that project. However, the Ballston Spa Central School District's needs through the town of Ballston and our TAP CMAQ grants, they were both rejected, and we have already requested a review, essentially. Why don't you go ahead and fill in?
Reached out to the contacts, I forget her name at the moment, but we already submitted a request to meet with them, and they'll discuss our application, how we can improve it. Maybe, what are things that we overlooked, or is the type of project something, was it ready ultimately? So we will get some good feedback hopefully and be ready for the next cycle. So at this moment, it's not scheduled, but I did make the request. So.
And I think it would be proper to invite Liz Cormos, who wrote the application, and maybe do grant writing in the future for this village, perhaps, to also be at that meeting so that she could hear directly about that grant, if she's interested in doing that.
So with respect to the school district, I would reach out to Superintendent Duca to discuss their options as well. And one thought too is that moving forward, looking at some of the size of the grants that were approved, there were some large ones out there in the $3 to $4 million range in some cases in this area, and possibly thinking of a coordination for Safe Streets to Schools type of approach, not just for the town of Ballston, but also for the Village of Ballston Spa, and what we were endeavoring to do with the Safe Streets to Schools approach, and give it a little bit more teeth that way. That's one thing I asked him to maybe follow the same idea with the town of Ballston to get their feedback as well, see what theirs is, share ours, and figure out the next correct steps to beef up the resumes for what honestly are important projects. Being fully transparent here, I think that the town of Ballston's request with the Ballston Spa Central School District was probably of paramount importance, knowing that we had 2 near fatalities in a 1 to 2 year period over there, and they have a strategy with respect to how to maybe start answering that. And so I was disappointed, especially to see that one rejected, and knowing that one got rejected, I'm not surprised that ours did as well. But I think that we can definitely make sure that in the future that gets addressed. I also suggested that maybe they consider going the Taco route, like we are going right now, with respect to sidewalks and whatnot. So, there are options out there, and, all in the name of coordination and collaboration, we're trying to make sure that everybody gets what they need to make sure the community is safe in these situations. So we'll look forward. We'll try to be optimistic about it. We'll get the information we need to move forward properly on all of that. Having said that,
I believe CMAQ does have 2 tracks. One is safe streets and the other is connectivity. So there wasn't exactly the same track for both. So it's feasible, conceivable that they could have been both awarded.
right, there's a limited pool of money though, overall, and so only so many projects will get approved with so much dollar value ultimately.
Yeah.
And again, look, the roundabout at North Line 50 is going to be an important feature for even us with respect to traffic movement in that zone. So at least there's something coming to this area with respect to the money from tax and that.
Yeah, that's kind of part of I know CDTC, probably just about 10 or 15 years ago, did a study. One of the recommendations, one of their recommendations was essentially a roundabout could be used as a gateway to for traffic calming in a particular area. So I was aware that they were considering this back in 2018 as a possible gateway on the north end of what would be considered Ballston Spa. And I think a CDTC study, at least 10 years ago or so, thought that Five Corners would also be a good roundabout, thereby providing a north and south gateway type traffic calming element.
D corners or?
D corners, yeah.
Is Saratoga has 5 corners?
Well, and Milton, just to give some background on that, Milton had also been requesting from project applicants. The planning board has been asking for money for a study for 2 major projects there to look at what would we need to do to get the roundabout. So there's been a lot of coordination.
Sean, are they looking at 67 and East Line also?
They've been looking at it, and I know it's a coordination. I think the state's looking at both Malta and Ballston to maybe foot that one because it's right on the border and would serve both. And I think the state's kind of like, look, there's a lot of money between the 2 of you if you try to develop that you could get. So that's kind of inside baseball stuff right now. But long story short, there is a potential roundabout on a state highway that could be installed to serve North Line and Route 50 based on this CAF-CMAQ grant. Millions of dollars involved, so you can see that these are not cheap, and that I don't even think that will cover the entire bill. I think that the county's going to have to probably put some of their own dollars in. Something like 3.5 or 4, I want to say. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, because I thought the same thing. It wouldn't cover probably.
It's probably going to have to be a hybrid, so it'll be a single lane, but maybe with some slip ramps. Yeah, that's more in the 5 to 6 million range.
Yeah. So anyway, again, some money coming in this direction, just not to the town of Ballston, to the Central School District or us on this round, but we will live the fight again on that. Treasurer's report balance sheet. LGSS should have our financials done by Monday, July 8th, 2024, which is today. I think we're still, I think actually we got an email late today, but I was not able to review it, so circulate that one get to. Revenues, preliminary revenues, total year-to-date revenues on the statement of revenues, expenditures in general fund are $2,084,192.90. Major revenues reported in June were real property tax of over $1.74 million. It's been collected prior to the July 2nd, 2024 deadline. Water meter cards have been entered thus far, and any received after June 30th will incur a $50 no meter read penalty. Gross utilities tax of $15,689.94 were received thus far, and pool fees thus far have been received in the amount of $15,309. Utilities, the village office will be calculating the utility bills later this month. Utility bills will arrive to the customers on August 1st, 2024. Utility payments will be due by close of business on Tuesday, September 3rd, since the 1st is a Sunday and the 2nd is Labor Day. Sales tax, we have not received sales tax yet this month. It's time for our liaison reports. Sean, you go first.
Okay, the to-do list. We need to install basketball hoops at Kelly Park. That's going to require pouring some footings. Prepare the park fence in both Kelly Park and Wiswall Park. Continue new street sign installations. They're also doing EPA lead pipe reporting that's been ongoing. Repaired storage drain pipes at Lower Ballston Ave, and start preparation for paving, which entails infrastructure repair and storm and sanitary catch basins and home cover repairs. They are also assisting subsurface technologies for the well and valve shutoff. And then well rehab began today. On one of the wells, I forget which well it is.
It's in the 484
Yeah, so, but that's moving forward. On a sad note, we've lost another DPW employee. Reason being that basically he does the same job, a lot closer to his home. So,
Seth Gonagry, which so we'll miss him.
So we're down 2 people, and Jeff is advertising and conducting interviews.
Mary.
The library was awarded a $2,500 grant from the Splitter Foundation, and that will go towards the accessibility project. As Mayor had said, we're going to be breaking down September, October for additions, and we're going to be moving the history section here to, I don't know if they found where, but they're hoping to relocate that to a safe spot. Ballston area seniors are hosting an indoor garage sale July 13th from 9 a.m. to 2:30 at 310 North Line. So if you're interested, you can go up there. They probably have crafts as well. And the task force is hosting the Kelly Park Creekside Playground repair and cleanup July 13th from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. And many volunteers are needed. So if you know anyone, you can just show up. You don't really have to sign up at this point. And also, as we heard, the planning has begun for Family Fun Day on August 18th, and volunteers will be needed for that. So you can reach out to Ray, Gina, Anna, maybe Jen, if you are interested in helping out with that.
Thanks, Mary. And for that.
BSPPA is very busy, as we all know, with their summer programs that benefit the community and also draw people to our downtown and hopefully to spend money. Farmers Market is on Thursdays 4 to 7, Saturday 9 to 1 at Wiswall Park. The Thursday concert this week is Heard from 7 to 8 in Iron Springs Park. The upcoming network breakfast is this Thursday. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Oxford Property Management. I wrote down the date. And then August 2nd, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It will be the next movie in the park. I just want to make a note about Barbie. That's showing of Barbie to the last movies in the park. It was a lot of fun, a lot of families, a lot of pink. It was really nice to hear families enjoy that movie and dads laugh along with their daughters, which is immensely sweet. And so just thank you to the BSBPA and all the business members who really just go out of their way to make our community downtown really welcoming to people. From our fire department, in the month of June, they had 53 emergency calls, which included 19 general alarms in our district, and then also 8 mutual aid structure fire responses, as well as 3 motor vehicle accidents. and the rest are many miscellaneous responses. In the month, there's more than 200 man hours of emergency response from our volunteers, which we're very thankful for. Total responses for the year have been 236 responses, which is a lot, I think. And then that equates to 2,800 man hours. They also conducted some trainings in March. And just a note about our equipment, Union Engine 142 is currently out of service with a drivetrain issue. That one has been gone to Vanderbilt for routine service and had other issues corrected, but the pump failed its annual testing. So they are keeping an eye on that piece of equipment. Just additional items, I continue to thank our firefighters for their efforts to educate the community, from our children to adults. They were involved with a Smart Choices motor vehicle accident presentation, as well as a participant in the senior send-off parade. They were involved with the ACC preschool visit, Wood Road kindergarten class visit to the Matley Firehouse, and they also provided coverage for the monster truck event. So if it's not realized in this report, our volunteers do an immense amount of work on our behalf. And so if you know someone who is a firefighter, if you see one, please make sure to thank them.
Thank you, firefighters. We appreciate it. And Ben.
Yes. Before I start, it just makes me think that it would be great to have the chiefs come to a board meeting. We could thank them directly to the public, and also they can share their thoughts on how things are going. So if we could ever get that scheduled, that'd be awesome. I also, I think we didn't thank Liz Cormos enough for her very hard work on the TAP CMAQ grant. So I just wanted to mention that she was responsible for that. And every time that you write a grant, even if you don't get it, it gets you closer to getting it the next time. So thank you very much for your dedication to the village. In terms of the Committee on the Arts, they're having their plein air day 7/28, and you can see catch up on that on Facebook. It's free. It's a Sunday gathering 10 to 1. No registration required. It says, but you get more information on Facebook. All skill levels welcome. There's no instruction and no supplies. So it's basically just a get together to paint. Sounds of Summer. There's going to be a concert July 28th, 6 p.m. at Brookside. Still don't know the name of the group, but it'll likely be jazz. There's going to be a tie-dye event, movies in the park, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids on August 2nd. On Saturday, Farmers Market, August 3rd, there's going to be a tie-dye event that they will sponsor. There'll be a family fun day, and then there's another concert, Sounds of Summer concert on August 25th at 6 p.m. And their next meeting, if you want to join the fun, is July 17th, 7 p.m. in the library here. Park and Tree Board doesn't have a ton of updates. They have finished collecting survey responses on Wiswell Park. They thank everyone who has responded, and they have well over 100 responses, and they will be writing a report in short order on what they found. Their next meeting is July 16th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. also at Cornell Cooperative Extension. Thank you.
Thank you. No old business, no new business listed. Public comment on any issue for 3 minutes. Again, in the house, raise your hand. If you're on Zoom, this again is the time to raise your hand on Zoom if you'd like to speak on any issue. Liz.
Liz Cormos, 89, hi. One question I had is the fire on Kaleen Drive. Does the village have any knowledge as to the state of that building? It is, I think, been a couple of months and it's still standing, just as if it had gotten, burned without any activity around it. So I was wondering if,
The intention is to rebuild. I'm sure insurance is handling the situation. But I spoke to the Rask family personally during their Speckled Pig event, and they are so in love with our community before and after what community did for them, that they're going to be, as long as they're allowed to, and insurance cooperates, rebuild on site. So
I just wondered if there was any, indication of when they would take that building down, because I believe it's got the condemned sign on it. The other thing is, I hate to say it, but where does the BOA grant stand? It's been over 2 years, and frankly, you haven't even gotten to step 2, form a committee. And I don't think that really looks good as far as our ability to attract grants. So I'd like to know, like, the last conversation was a month or 2 ago about forming a committee, and there's been nothing. So
Keep hitting this. Our consultant is writing some initial information meant for the public, so they understand what the BOA is and what the responsibilities of the committee will be. Also, kind of like a sort of recruitment document will be created also to, again, kind of get people interested in applying for the committee. And once that is together, I'll distribute it to the board and we'll talk about it. But she's working on that, and I have, she and I were talking about getting weekly, she and I to discuss weekly meetings, but Norabelle, yeah, I don't know, I didn't say that. Weekly meetings with the both of us, what she might need from the village, what we need from her, and also to kind of coordinate it, within the week, so that we're getting that there's a request needed with the board, that it gets on the agenda in time. So
do you have a timeline for accomplishing those?
I think we'll get that. I'll ask her to shoot for next meeting, so the next July meeting for those documents.
Good, thank you.
And will those, I'm hoping those documents will be draft and we'll have opportunity to provide feedback.
Sure, I can't imagine it'll be too different. I mean, it's a prescriptive sort of thing. I mean, you can look at it,
There
but
may not be a lot of feedback, but I think it's a big project, community project, is going to be using village resources. I think we should at least have the opportunity to see a draft of material.
Okay.
Thank you.
okay, anybody else in the house? Yeah, it's all like 3 hands going at once. Go ahead.
Hi, Karen Evanarius, 10 Church Ave. I just was checking, last summer, there was a big debate on the whole bus shelters, CTA bus shelters. I know back in the spring, we all got mailings, and I didn't know what the status was. It doesn't seem like a lot of stuff has been going on.
We had given an update last meeting, just give you a long
okay.
story short, there's been a lot of turnover in that department for CDTA. But we had a meeting to make sure that they were on the correct placements, and they had a construction plan, but where they're going to put a crosswalk by Doubleday Woods Ave for that aspect of it was wrong, probably compared to what we had assumed, and so they're reworking that. Everything that you assumed was going to happen by reshop for the movement of the Malta Avenue stop was as was originally planned. When they're done fixing what was going on by Doubleday Woods Ave up there, they are very likely are going to give a presentation just to show one more time what is in front of us with respect to it. But everything is moving forward again with it after all the turnover that was experienced.
Okay, thank you. Sorry I missed that. And then
No
the other
problem.
thing is, I'm happy to hear that there's going to be some changes in the updated parking. I'm hoping that is the village parking lots. I know there seems to be a lot of people that have a hard time, the one on Malta Ave, parking in there and parking on the streets or in private lots. And hopefully some of these private lots, or not private, the public lots or the public streets, they're ADA compliant, and we're making sure we have the correct stuff moving forward.
Thank you. I saw other hands. Go ahead. Who wants it? Yeah. Go ahead.
Pete Martin, 20 Chesterwood Court. I see all the signs about bundling your yard stuff. Is that like mandatory? The reason I'm asking, when we go in your cul-de-sac, it's loaded loaded with all kinds of stuff. And the branches that are out there, right? Do they get picked up by the garbage people?
They won't get picked up like if you just leave them whole.
Okay, so of course you have a few, and which is, you have.
Yeah, my son.
Let me just finish, please, please. You have very little out there.
Yeah.
But the neighbor to your left has a lot. The neighbor to his left, if you get there, he loaded, and then the guy across the street from me, the whole street was loaded with stuff. I told him what was going on, and we put it all in my yard, put it all in my backyard. So my point is, the storm drains, so the waste, when we get the rain, all those leaves are drying up and they're all going down the drain. Our street cleaners can't do anything there. So, can we enforce this? I mean, for me to go over and ask the neighbor, yeah, we did it together, but like the other neighbor just blew me away and used you as an example. Said, he's got it out there, and you have nothing. You have 2-3 things out there. I mean, nothing. But is this enforceable, or just we're asking people not to do it?
I don't think we can enforce it because I don't think there's
Okay, then there's
anything on the
nothing.
books that
We have
says
to
you
check.
can't.
So we have 2 issues, and you have our basins, which are, all these leaves are going down, and we have a problem with our stormwater over there now. That's the reason why I'm complaining. And then, I feel kind of funny telling these people to move stuff, so I don't know if it's something you want to address.
We'll take a look at the code, see what's in there, because I have a feeling there's a kind of obstruction, prohibition on stuff like
But
that.
at no point am I just singling you out. You don't have, very little there.
I'm not
But
worried about it.
everybody's following the thing in our whole neighborhood, and it was pretty bad.
Just like your son's in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, completely to my surprise, when I looked out, my son was mowing the lawn, and apparently there was one tree that the branch was low enough that he hit his head on, so
Yeah, I don't blame you.
he decided to clip it.
But if you just drive around to the other ones, you'll see that they're all out there, and it's.
Yeah, I hadn't gone around to see.
You will
but-
see, because you go right in the
Yeah,
driveway.
yeah.
Ray, you're up.
Yeah, 16 Middlebrook. I'm piggybacking on people tonight. As far as the garbage companies, I have been in an ongoing battle with county waste to pick up yard waste. They don't do it for 3-4 weeks at a time. And as far as I know, it says on the side of their truck, yard waste. And if it's out there in bags and if it's out there bundled, they're supposed to be picking it up. But every time I call them, imagine that, me calling somebody. I get, well, we had a truck breakdown, we had to do a pickup in Glenville, the sun was bright today, whatever the excuse may be. So I did get in touch with Frank about it and say, do we contract with the garbage companies to pick this stuff up? Twin Bridges picks it up every week. I got stuff, my neighbor has stuff up there sitting there for 3-4 weeks at a time. So I don't know what the good answer is, but that's where that is. You were talking about parking lots and the downtown area. I'm going to piggyback on that with a question. I noticed there's new lights that have been put in, traffic lights, and new.
Or attempted to be put in.
Yeah, they're there. And the walk lights, the pedestrian lights. Once those get in place and are functional, are they going to have the delay for pedestrians to cross before the light changes?
I don't believe the current iteration foresees it, but I've said it before. I'm waiting for them to finish this project to begin the next question of how to coordinate better between East High Street, Front Street, and Malta Avenue / Washington to get those lights better coordinated for pedestrian purposes, and especially on the High Street side of things, the left turn issues that are being experienced heading from East High to West High. So this was supposed to be done, John, close your ears. This was supposed to be done many months ago by DOT. I don't know what the heck happened with respect to why it's not done like October of last year. So we're all kind of like looking at the double up of traffic signals overhead and asking ourselves, why are they still in that condition up there? So sooner or later, I'm going to be reaching out again, but you kind of get the runaround about this, that they're working on it, they're working on it, hit delays, snags, whatever. And then we're going to start to ask the questions about the next features once we see what they actually implement with respect to those signals.
Okay, I can shed some.
Could you please? I appreciate that.
Those are held up because of utility conflicts. There are certain distance requirements from the utilities, and unfortunately, the utility service providers can be very difficult to work with and take a long time.
Can't imagine.
And in the particular case of the Route 50 there at Washington, Malta, I believe the solution there is taller poles, so they're gonna have to take the poles out, put taller ones in. So obviously that does take a lot of coordination. The other one is a minor change, but there is a slight utility conflict there that should be easier. But once we resolve those issues, those signals are pretty much ready to go. It's just a matter of unbagging them and dismantling the old one. So at that point, I've actually updated and modified the programs for those. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, things go a little smoother through there. We'll see.
And just from, again, a safety standpoint, the delayed traffic light change so that the pedestrians at least can get a head start. Myself and I've seen others in the last couple of weeks at Malta and 50, where drivers have just not been looking, and they make the turn, and one guy blew his horn at the lady that was crossing with her kid. She had the light and she was crossing, and
Well, two things
which I
there.
thought was real interesting.
When anybody's in a crosswalk at all,
Right.
you cannot impede in that situation. You cannot continue. Also, people have got to look at those right on red signs, or the lack thereof, the ability to make the right on red, because too many people are making the right on red, despite the fact the signs are there. And that is dangerous. There's a reason they were installed there, to prevent possible collisions with pedestrians especially. And that you're just being a danger to people to hurry up. Our traffic light cycles are not that horrendous, especially for people turning right. I would ask people to have a little more patience.
Yeah. And lastly, on a lighter note, you all know I spent a lot of years at 78 Thompson Street. And I was told something about that building that I'm a little upset with, that my office is now the holding cell. I don't know if that was on purpose or not.
You said it.
We can name it after you if you like. Anybody else to the house? I see one Zoom.
Nathan
hand.
Ward.
I'm sorry?
Nathan Ward. would like
Okay.
to say something.
And Nathan, go ahead.
Hi, Nathan. This is Nathan Ward, 1 Hind Boulevard. I was going to mention the BSBPA events, but Bernadette did a great job saying all those events that are coming up. Thank you for passing the motion for the car show that's coming up in October. And then on non-BSBPA note, I think the My Speed sign, new addition on Hyde is very successful in slowing people down. I do frequently stop and watch cars. They do go fast, like 38, and they do slow down to 30 when they do see their speed exceeding the speed limit. And I have seen it is easier to cross at that pedestrian crosswalk at Hyde and Chapman. So I think those are, really helping out. It is upsetting that we didn't win the TAP CMAC grant. So, we get a chance to put in another bid in 2 more years. And just speaking about sidewalk safety, I do encourage the board or the village to, do what that grant wanted to accomplish. Daily, the BACC does take their kids from their building down to the village pool, and they do have to walk on the street, and they have to cross the street where there's no crosswalk, and it is pretty dangerous. So evaluate, does the safety of the children in the village would be beneficial to them and to the drivers too. Thanks.
Thank you. On a lighter note on your speed signs, I did appreciate Marianne Priest showing pictures of the fact that some youngsters have decided to test how fast they're running against those signs. Not necessarily what you imagine they're gonna be used for, but excitement on high goal.
I run by it every day and I'm not that fast.
There you go. Or would I be? Okay, anybody else in the house? Seeing none, anybody on Zoom? No. Okay, other business including but not limited to board response to public comments.
I would just respond to something that Ray had said earlier regarding folks parking like off in the grass in between sidewalk. I mean, if you can identify a couple of locations where that's frequent, an interim solution might be to put, no parking on shoulder sign so that folks know they can't park over there.
Yeah.
So
I got a question from somebody, I'm not gonna name names here, but North Street, other concerns. People parking on lawns such that it's still cluttering up the road. And I was thinking the same thing, that maybe the correct solution is to put a no parking between signs on streets like that. So at least that there is a prohibition of something going on there, even though we may not have explicitly said what needs to be to, counter what she said is going on there. But yeah, same idea that we at least want to keep utilize signage like that.
yeah, right.
Anybody else?
It's like, I mean, can we put in a crosswalk across Malta and landing pads? Something before someone gets hit?
Where do you mean, across Malta?
Malta towards Kelly Park, where they have to
Ralph
cross.
Street. That's Ralph.
Yeah,
Street.
Ralph.
I don't think you can without sidewalk to sidewalk coverage, basically. Crosswalks have to have.
You have to have a pad, right? A landing pad. I don't know, because I know in B corners, they have crosswalks that don't go anywhere yet.
Yeah, but I think there's a plan there.
You can do a 5x5 pad, landing pad, which you're discussing. And then if it transitions into whatever grass, that is allowable.
I think we have to look at that entire section though, because once the stop sign got moved, it changed a lot of the dynamics of the entirety from Ralph to High on Malta. And I don't know if the simple crosswalk is going to resolve it, because you're gonna have different points of stoppage right near each other, and I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, that is part of the problem, because the logical location for that would be, I'm trying to get my directions now. East, on the east side of the intersection of Ralph and Malta.
It's so blind there. in the first
Right,
place.
so now you're only, what, 100 feet, 150 feet from an existing crosswalk?
Yeah.
So that typically you don't design that way. If there was a sidewalk connection and a landing on that little point, theoretically, then you could have a crosswalk over to the sidewalk. But the geography of all that would make that pretty challenging.
It's convoluted over there too, because so you have a clipping, basically, and if you put a sidewalk there, you have to do something to protect what's adjacent to it as well. Again, this is something we got to take a much deeper look at. This is a highly brought up issue to me, and different emails and Facebook posts and stuff like that. And I haven't forgotten about it. It's just we need to sort of figure out the correct approach. Some of the time possible money would be utilized, I think, for something like that to answer some of what Nathan was bringing up as well. So stuff to look at. We have not forgotten about it. It's part of, I think, a bigger picture item though. Anything else, anybody?
No, I just noticed the SBPA obviously has insurance. It wasn't provided the attachments, but usually that's like a standard, like, oh, insurance will be provided.
I did receive the insurance.
Right,
It's my
there you go.
interaction.
Okay, just, I don't know whether to mention here or under the voucher motion, but I do have a question about the expenditure on the fence and the.
You approved the fence.
I was looking for that. I thought it was for 12,000.
It was 27, and we got 15 from the county to offset that.
Where is the, I was looking for that motion because I was.
That was in a special meeting. I think it was.
Special meeting.
It was at a special meeting in the village hall, if I remember correctly. Because
Yeah,
we
you were-
had a timing issue going on, and we said, oh, we'll put this on because the fence company was gonna be able to do the fence that next week, and we want to make sure they were.
All right, that's why I couldn't find it.
Yep.
regularly.
Sorry about that.
No, thanks for explaining that. Is the special meeting minutes, are they on?
I think they
Are
are.
they on? Okay. Yeah, I just didn't see it. All right, thanks for explaining that. And then the 10,000 for,
I think that is a bunch of different pieces of the asphalt, because there were two different quotes with respect to that, one last year, one this year. So I think they just amalgamated up to that number ultimately.
are we still within the budget, the Parks and?
I believe so, or
Is it-
we maybe
which is
slightly
like-
extended past it, but it was, again, with netting and standards and stuff like that. It's over 2 years now too.
So that 10,996, that's a number of different purchases. It's not like it's
That is
exceeded
my
the-
understanding. I mean, I can check with Jeff on that just to make sure, but I think that was, we got a lot of this stuff actually in kind, from Evolution and from Pampa. Pampa went a long way on giving us, material, we'll put it that way, and, the likelihood is we'll dedicate in Agnes Pampa's, memory, with respect to that space, thanks to that. That was no small, gift to the, village, we'll do that. So yeah, I will get you more information if that helps you on that, but that was my understanding of it, was that it was basically all to do with things.
Just as long as they're following that, the purchasing.
No, I get it.
control.
I get where you're going.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes,
I had second thoughts about that motion, about the permit for DSBPA. And if you read the motion that I wrote, it does say it'll be, as soon as the insurance is provided, the permit will be issued. And I recall Dana telling me that their insurance is gonna expire before the Way We Work Hard show, so
Got it.
that's why they're not sending it.
so they'll send the renewal, version.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. There is no need for executive session tonight. Can I get a motion that the vouchers be audited and the meeting adjourned at 8:14 PM? Trustee Fandesa. Second. Trustee Raymond, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Nice.